What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how wide receivers can avoid injury while cutting. Okay, so we're going to be talking about 3 ways that you guys can do that, specific things at the top of the route that wide receivers want to avoid, and then we're going to show examples of what wide receivers want to do at the top of the route to avoid injury, to avoid putting stress on their ankle, their Achilles, and their knee. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Let's get started with this first route here from Metchie. Okay, so now this is a route that everybody was looking at because obviously Metchie tore his ACL on this specific play, and we're just going to talk about kind of some of the things that went wrong right here and just why he injured himself on that. So at the top of the break, fellas, the first tip to kind of avoiding that injury is you got to make sure that your cuts are underneath your frame. You're not reaching and you don't let things get outside of your frame, right? So when we come back here and we see that Metchie, when he gets into this break, when he starts to put the brakes on right here, how his upper body is trying to get out of this thing before the legs actually like commit to it, right? Like you have to commit to the cut before you actually get out of the route. So many guys will try to do that. They'll try to get out of the route too fast. They'll try to turn their pad level out of this route. And the problem with that is that when that cut gets outside of your frame, that's when we put the stress on the knee. That's when we put the stress on the ankle. When it's outside of my frame and I'm trying to get out of it too quick, we have to come to balance with my lower half and let the lower half be the thing that shoots you out of the break. We don't want to let my upper body take me out of the break. We want to let my lower body take me out of the break. So we have to make sure like these cuts are fine. If he would have just not started to turn too early with that upper half and he would have brought his upper half with that last cut, that wouldn't have put so much stress. He wouldn't have extended with this leg. And obviously freak injury. Obviously Metchie's an incredibly talented wide receiver. It's not because of his lack of route running. It's not because he doesn't know what to do, but so many young receivers make this mistake and they just simply are not operating at a fast enough speed to be able to hurt themselves. But when they do get a little bit faster, they do get a little bit more explosive, they're going to really injure themselves when they try to make a cut like this. So we have to make sure, fellas, anytime I'm snapping down, anytime I'm dropping my hips, we got to make sure that those feet are underneath me. I don't want to get out of the route without my feet propelling me out of there. We talk about it all the time on this channel. We talk about how you got the speed, right? So like him going up into this break, that's like selling vertical. That's the first phase of it, right? We got to sell vertical. We got to get this DB to commit to the fade. We got to get him to run with me. And then I have the break point, which is where I create energy. And to be able to create energy while running full speed, you have to drop your hips violently. Now, you got to be able to drop violently, but you also have to have balance and have to have explosion to accelerate out of the break. If I try to accelerate out of the break without my legs being underneath me, without myself having balance, that's what's going to injure me. So the first tip to make sure that you guys avoid injury while cutting, make sure that we don't try to get out of the break too soon with my upper body. I have to make sure that those cuts are underneath my frame. Now we're going to be taking a look at this route here from Hunter Renfrow. I'm going to play this thing full speed, and then we'll get into this route from Hunter Renfrow, which shows how you guys can avoid injury on like a speed cut, rocker step type of route, okay? Just make sure, again, fellas, that cut leg is underneath your frame, okay? But also, fellas, before we get into that next route, we're going to be traveling to 9 different cities this offseason. We're going to be going to Tampa, Florida. We're going to be traveling to Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois. Then we're going to be going to Dallas, Texas. Then we're going to be going to Nashville, Tennessee, Los Angeles, California, and that's going to conclude the camp tour for us. So we're going to be doing 9 different camps in 8 different states, 9 different cities this offseason. So if you guys want more information on how you guys can sign up for one of those camps, get some great work in with us, check out that very first link in the description below. You guys, it's a great opportunity for you to get better. Spots are limited at each camp. There's only going to be 50 people at each camp, so that's 10 guys per position group because it's going to be quarterbacks, wide receivers, and DBs, and the groups are going to be split up into youth and high school. So it's going to be very small groups. We're actually going to take the time to develop you for 2 days, 4 hours per day. We're going to be doing 1-on-1, 7-on-7, all the above to help your guys' skills improve. So if you guys are local to one of those 9 different cities, Tampa, Houston, Phoenix, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and then Los Angeles, California. If you guys want to come out, get some great work in with us, check out that very first link in the description below. Like I said, let's get to this route. So now this route from Hunter Renfrow, again, this is a situation of where we don't bring my upper body with it and we don't have that balance with the cut. So let's talk about it, right? So whenever we go up into this route, so many wide receivers, what they'll do is they try to, same thing, like they don't bring their hip with the cut, right? And it's very similar to what we were talking about with Metchie. You want to make sure that that cuts outside of the DB's frame, right? Because I'm all for that. I'm all for trying to sell outside the DB's frame, trying to really step, trying to threaten him to this lane, as you will, like he's in the middle lane. We want to threaten him to the right lane. But again, if I try to do this, I got to make sure that I bring my upper body with it. So the second tip to avoid injury while you're cutting is make sure that you bring your hip with the cut. Bring your hip, bring your upper body with the cut so we have some balance and we have some stability with it, right? So you see when Renfrow goes to throw, that cuts outside of his frame and he doesn't bring his hip with it. His hips are already trying to sell this post route route on this move. So we have to make sure that I commit to the cut, because anytime that cuts outside of my frame, my upper body is leaving this thing, I'm more susceptible to injury. That puts a lot of stress on my ankle and a lot of stress on my knee. So we got to make sure, fellas, anytime I'm doing a speed cut, a double move at the top of the break, a rocker step, triple rocker step, whatever it is, you have to bring your hip and you have to bring your upper body with the cut so it's not way outside of your frame. When you try to sell the route and you try to step outside the DB's frame and actually threaten him vertical, you better bring the upper half, because there's so much stress on that ankle, so much stress on that knee. And you see how close his knee actually gets to that grass. That's a very, very dangerous cut. So we have to make sure, fellas, we bring my hips and we bring my upper body anytime I'm working that speed cut to have some balance and to have some explosion, okay? So let's watch the thing again, full speed. Second tip, make sure when we're doing a speed cut, rocker step, whatever it is, bring your hip with the cut so we don't put that stress on that knee and we don't put that stress on that ankle, okay? So now we're going to be looking at two specific examples here of cuts that were actually good form and that are different from the two cuts that we looked at, right? So this is going to be similar to that Mechie cut, right? So this is a situation where we have to drop my hips, and this is a whip route. So a lot of people talk about this whip route because it's a very tough break, right? It's a two-step break where you're breaking off of your inside foot and you're hooking your outside foot back around. This is a cut where a lot of people slip. A lot of people put a lot of pressure on their knee and their ankles with this. So the third tip, again, to make sure that you do not get injured while you cut, is to make sure that we are striking the ground properly, okay? But also having my feet underneath me. We're going to talk about that with the next two clips, okay? So again, we have to make sure that my feet are in an explosive spot, okay? So many wide receivers struggle with this. And what do I mean by explosive spot? I mean, when you drop into a break, you're not on your heels and you're not on your tippy toes. What a lot of people do, like the tippy toes, I wouldn't say causes injury per se. It could cause a rolled ankle. But when you're on your tippy toes, when you cut, you're going to be falling forward. Imagine trying to run full speed and then trying to cut like on a post or something and being on your toes. You're going to fall forward. That's not the right way to cut, right? And then when you strike the ground on your heel, guess what happens? When you go heel first, all the weight from your body is going to shoot up and shoot back. And that puts a ton of stress on your Achilles, and that will put a ton of stress on your knee, right? So we have to make sure when I make this cut, I'm striking the ground on that arch of my foot. This is a perfect spot to strike, right? It's on the arch of his foot. It's not his toes. It's not his heels. It's on that arch, because that's where your power comes from. You want to think of it like a pitcher in baseball. He's pushing off the mound. He's not pushing off his toe. He ain't pushing off of his heel. He's pushing off that middle arch of the foot. So that's where we want to make sure that we strike the ground. So third tip to avoid injury is we have to make sure that I'm striking the ground properly, because if you don't strike the ground properly, no matter how fast you are moving, that puts yourself more susceptible to injuring yourself. Now, the second thing I want to talk about with this clip is you see how much that opposite leg, like he commits to it, right? Like he's not trying, because again, he has to get back on a 90-degree angle back outside, right? Similar to that route that Mechie ran, right? He's trying to make a break and he's trying to get back to the ball, but he didn't commit to the cut at the top of this. We have to commit to this second cut, and that's exactly what this receiver does. That cut is underneath his frame. That cut, his body, it's underneath his shoulders. He's in a balanced position. He's in an explosive position. It'd be different if he broke off of this leg right here and was trying to get out of the route and then hook that opposite leg around and try to cut. But that leg is underneath his frame. He's committing to the cut first and is letting the cut leg push him out of there. That's textbook right there. That's how you get out of the break efficiently. That's how you cut going full speed, dropping your hips and being able to break off of this thing, right? So many different things apply to this, right? Obviously, you need ankle stability. Obviously, you need knee stability. You need strong legs. But again, when you have all those things down, it's all about the technique. You can still injure yourself, right? Mechie is a top-tier athlete, still injures himself on a cut simply because we're just trying to get out of it, and that cut goes outside of my frame. He has all the ankle stability, all the knee stability in the world, but if we don't have the correct form, it's not going to translate to the field. So make sure that those cuts are underneath my frame. I'm striking the ground on the right portion of my foot to be able to create energy and drive off of this thing. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job selling the slant, committing to the cut, and letting that outside leg be the thing that pushes him out. So now we're going to take a look at this rocker step here, just because I want to highlight this, and it's a little bit different from the route that we saw Hunter Renfrow run, right? Again, so that rocker step, what he did is that first cut wasn't under his frame. He didn't bring his hip with it, and that's why he sold. So this rocker step right here, you see how this guy is first step, right? First step is here. Where's that at? That's underneath his frame. It's not way outside of his frame. He's not overcommitted to this cut. He's actually sticking this thing in the ground and using it to push him off. And again, second cut, his hip goes with the cut. Yes, he's stepping wide, but he doesn't leave his shoulders and he's not over anxious. When that foot hits the ground, when this outside foot, like the plant leg, hits the ground, your shoulders and your hips shouldn't be trying to get out of the route already. That's what puts stress on your knee. That's what makes you susceptible to injury. So just make sure that we bring my upper half. Every time I cut this thing, I'm committing to the cut and using my foot using the cut itself to drive me off of this break. Okay, I just wanted to show that just to highlight that example of the rocker step so you guys could see it better from that Hunter Renfroe example. Okay, so make sure, fellas, 3 tips to avoid injury while you're cutting. Make sure that we cut underneath my frame. Number 2, make sure when I'm making a speed cut or any kind of hard cut, I'm bringing my upper body, I'm throwing my hip and my foot are attached on the cut. And tip 3 to avoid injury, make sure you are striking the ground on the correct portion of your foot. Okay, so I hope this video helps you guys out. You guys, I hope that it just gave you some insight on some of the things you can do to avoid that injury, because I know everybody loves to talk about that. Oh, hey, I hurt myself doing this, I hurt myself doing that. And again, a lot of the times it's because of lack of ankle strength, knee stability, ankle stability, leg strength, but then there are other times where it's just a lack of form. And we got to make sure that we have both. We got to build the ankle stability, build the knee stability, get stronger legs, get stronger, just overall get more explosive, but also build that balance, build that stability from the mechanics of the cut. Okay, so I hope this video helped you guys out, like I said. And again, fellas, if you guys are local to one of those 9 different cities that we're coming to, Tampa, Florida, Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, then we're going to Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. Check out that very first link below if you want to come out and get some great work in with us. Limited spots to the camp because we want to really take the time to develop each athlete. Very first link below. I'll see you guys next time.